Today I'd like to welcome Ronda Baldwin Kennedy of Oak Park, California with us. She's running for State Assembly of the 44th District here in Ventura County, and she's here to tell us a little bit about herself and why she wants Ventura County voters to support her in election 2018. Rhonda, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited to hear about your candidacy.
Yes.
You know, being in Ventura County, there's so many amazing things that I love being from here. Can you tell us what you love about Ventura County?
Well, I love the sense of community, and I like going to the local restaurants. There's lovely restaurants here, mom and pop, and you get that home feeling. Everyone's so friendly, it's diverse.
Right.
Yeah, it's really nice community.
So in terms of being out here, you're out in the Oak Park area, and you work in Ventura?
Yes, my office in Ventura. I love my office. It's like 3 blocks from the beach, so I, can walk down to the beach for lunch and relax, and that's the beauty of Ventura County.
There's so many different venues,
There's
right?
so many different venues, yeah.
So now I have 4 kids, and I cannot believe you have 6 kids. That's amazing. How do you balance that?
Well, my motto is just it's like Nike, you just do it. And that's what I do. I just do it. I don't know anything else, but and they're so much fun. I mean, with 6 kids, the holidays is just great. And then
I bet.
Yeah, and I also have 3 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
Young grandmother.
Yes. So my oldest is married with 3 children.
Wow.
So yeah, they just spent a few days with me, and
wow.
It's still kind of strange to hear grandma, but.
Wow. Is that what they call you? They call you grandma?
Yeah, they call me grandma. I gave up on other names because they still call me grandma anyway.
Really?
So, yeah.
What were the other names you were trying?
Grand Row.
Grand Row.
I
That's
don't,
kind of cool.
Rhonda.
Yeah, Grand Row. Grand Row. That's
Grand
cute.
Row.
That's
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do for grandmother. I guess I got to think. That's a good thing to think
Yeah,
about. I got to
that.
come up with a cool name. So now, Rhonda, you're doing a lot for our community. I mean, that's actually one of the ways that I bumped into you. Tell me about some of the work you're doing in our community for people that are looking for help.
Well, as you know, I'm also an attorney, and so I have clients that pay me well, and so I like to pay that forward. So there's a lot of people who can't afford legal services, so I will represent them, at no charge, pro bono. And particularly, people I've helped people get their citizenship who had no way of getting it and was desperate, and found a way to help them. And so I just believe in giving back, and if you could help, to help those that are in need. My office actually gives a free immigration seminar twice a week, and we do one-on-one consultations with people that have immigration issues, and we've been able to help people actually get their legal status, their permanent residency cards, or apply for visas, and that would get approved. For example, if you're a victim of a crime, you can apply for a U visa, and which would give you status. So that was the purpose behind that bill, or that visa, is if you are a victim of a crime, you may be afraid to talk to the police or to report a crime. So because you're of your legal status, so that kind of gives you a protection. Also, if you're a victim of domestic violence and you're not legal, and if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you could apply independently under the Violence Against Women's Act. So there's different ways that you can get get your legal status.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
What I feel like has been misunderstood is what it means to be a conservative today. And I know that, talking to people in the community, if you ask them what conservative is, especially in California, that's kind of a difficult subject. What does it mean to be a conservative to you?
To be a conservative to me is a person that believes in the Constitution, a person that's willing to protect the Constitution and to stand by the Constitution, even against personal beliefs. That's one of the reasons why I became an attorney. It's because I believe that attorneys are like the last line of defense for the Constitution, and protecting it and preserving our way of life is very important. And also I believe that being conservative is keeping jobs, knowing that businesses are important, to our society and not regulating them to death, where that they're able to sustain and employ people that live here in California, people that live here in the United States, because without those businesses, we don't have jobs, which in turn we don't have, income to support those citizens. Citizens can't pay taxes, and a government can't sustain itself that way.
Recently, Kanye West sent out a really big tweet, and it created a big storm about his support for President Trump. And President Trump, albeit is a controversial figure, people love him or hate him.
Right.
But what was interesting is that Kanye West was supporting someone who's a conservative. Could have been Trump, could have been someone else. And people really went after them. Why do people have such a reaction to that? Why do you think that is?
I think we've been, stigmatized. It is if you belong to a certain race, if you're black, if you're a minority, that you have to be a Democrat. You can't be a conservative. But conservatism isn't about race. It's about values that you have. And if your values align with being a conservative, then why can't you publicly say you're a conservative without being ridiculed? And I support people being able to express their political views without, people persecuting them. I mean, that's what our Constitution is meant for. That's what our Constitution is here to protect, is our First Amendment. I'm proud of him for coming out and doing that, because he made it safe for a lot of other, African-American conservatives to publicly embrace and say, hey, I'm not a Democrat.
Yeah. Wait, have you always been conservative? I mean, did you grow up being conservative, or did you kind of flow on the spectrum of being, more, let's say, progressive at one point, and then realizing, no, I think maybe my values have changed? How did that happen?
I've always been a conservative. I can't say that I recognized that I was a conservative, but my beliefs and my belief in the Constitution, I've always believed in the Constitution. I think that I'm where I am today because of the Constitution. Yes, there were landmark Supreme Court cases, like my husband is white, and before Loving v. Virginia, it would be, against the law in some states for us to be married. Now, it was a case that the Supreme Court recognized that under, but it was under the Constitution that of equality that ruling was made on. So I believe that, I'm a strong believer in the Constitution, and supporting it. So with that, I'd fall more in line with being a conservative.
Do you think there's a lot of conservatives in California that don't tell people that they're conservative because of the stigma that's been created in a lot of social media and public realms?
I do. I think a lot of people are shamed, by other people for being conservatives, and I think it's horrible. It's a disgrace on the Constitution to shame its citizens for having different political views. We had a war that, of independence that took us from some of those same beliefs, that's what we fought the Revolutionary War for, was to get away from that. And, in America, you shouldn't be shamed for having certain political views that don't align with, with someone else's political views. You should be free to express that. I mean, that's what it is. You have the freedom of expression, the freedom of association. That's what the First Amendment is. And I think there are a lot of conservatives here in California, but they're in the closet. They're afraid to say, hey, I'm a conservative, or hey, I support the president, because there are business owners who won't put pro-Trump stuff up because they're afraid. And then at the time when Obama was elected, it was the same way. But some people were so anti-Obama that it polarized the nation. And I think that people should openly be able to embrace their political views without persecution from others.
In this county, I'm sure you've discovered that, this is formerly cowboy country. It's, majority white community. What do you think it would mean if this community elected a black assemblywoman? What do you think that would say about this community?
I would say that this community embraces diversity. And I think that's, that should be on both sides, on the Democrat side and the Republican side, that we embrace diversity. And I am diverse, and I think it would say a lot. I mean, I think this community it's pretty diverse. I haven't felt any kind of, you kind of get that feeling when you don't feel welcomed, and I've always felt welcome, in Ventura County and in the area.
That's great. I think we should all be very proud of that. That's great.
Yes.
So what makes you the best candidate for the job?
Well, I think I'm the best candidate for the job because I understand when I see the other side of the bill, of the laws, once they're passed. So being a lawyer, I can look at them from a perspective of where they're going to be challenged. And so far, many bills that Jackie Irwin has voted on has been challenged and has gone up to the Supreme Court. And when you think about it, who's paying the legal fees? The citizens of California and the U.S. citizens, particularly in the lawsuit with SB 54. That's the federal prosecution, federal tax dollars, and then you have state tax dollars that are defending it. So that's you're double paying for both sides. It's and I think that I could look at them from a legal perspective and say this bill's going to be challenged, and maybe change, we have to change this wording or do that. And also I think I would be more of actually being bipartisan, to be able to, get more bipartisan cooperation. Not only, I am, a minority female, that I may be able to reach over across the aisle a little bit easier to get, Democrats to work with Republicans. And also, a little more compassionate. Like there's one bill that was voted that ended up passing, but it was if you were a minor arrested for prostitution, that instead of being prosecuted criminally, you would actually be referred to DCFS. And I think that was a great bill. It was wonderful because I've actually worked in the dependency court. And I think, if you're, there's sex trafficking is huge. It's a big problem. And if you're a minor and you're prostituting yourself, obviously there's a bigger underlying issue that should be addressed. And I don't think criminally prosecuting them is the answer. And that was something that maybe I could have reached across, and across the aisle and actually worked with and explained that this is a big problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of crime, we've seen in Ventura County crime increase over the last, 5+ years, and it's been surprising. What do you think you could do in office to help that issue?
Well, also, I do some criminal defense.
Oh, do you?
Yes. And I think there are a lot of loopholes. And I've been, I believe in justice. And I believe that if the investigation and the police do their jobs correctly, that, the defense is, you're not going to succeed in getting a not guilty verdict for your client. And so I've seen that, and I've seen the loopholes that happens in the law that get exploited by defense attorneys. I mean, that's their job. And I think tightening some of those up to make sure that when it does go to trial, or a defense attorney is looking at it, it's going to be harder to defend than it currently is. And one of them is I would toughen up on our DUI laws. There's so many of them. People continuously, drive under the influence, and I think that's a spot that should be tightened up and should be strengthened in the law.
We as a state struggle a lot with education. We're ranked so low compared to the rest of the states. And we have pockets in Ventura County that do better than others. We definitely have pockets that need some help. What do you think you could do to support the different communities in terms of their education?
Well, I think we need to get more parents involved. I know there are some parents that they have children that attend schools, but they're either afraid of attending the school board meetings, or they don't participate in the school board meetings because things are so polarized. I think, if you want to improve education, it starts in the home. And I think that's where, we need to start with getting more parents involved, and more resources to parents to get involved. I mean, it's, California is so expensive to live, that a lot of times parents may not get home in time to help students with
Right.
their homework. So to have, more after school programs where there's more tutors available to help them, help students with their homework. And that, I think sometimes the schools and the districts are so involved in the political aspect of it that it's forgotten that this is for the children. I mean, these are for our future, and more focus should be put on them and not the politics of it.
Cost of living in California. Wow.
Yeah.
We've got taxes here and gas tax and, our state income tax and the new deduction rules, and that changes. How can you help people in Ventura County and even people in California with these issues?
Well, one thing we need to stop doing is whenever there's a need for money, is just say, "Oh, I know. Let's just create a tax and tax the people." It's like, no, these are the people that you're supposed to be helping. Like the gas tax. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, for me personally, it takes about $88 to fill my tank up, and I do that maybe like twice a week. Can you imagine, having a minimum wage job and, you have to commute? Let's just face it, there's public transportation here is not the greatest. So you're going to have to drive, and you're going to have to drive a distance. So take that minimum wage job and then take the gas out of it, and then you have to pay rent, buy food, clothing. I mean, and then I guess, you have to eliminate entertainment. So I guess, you can't take your family to a movie or, take them to the fair because that's, that costs money. Well, you could have saved that money in the extra money, the gas tax. I think that's these extra taxes like the gas tax hurts working middle class everyday families. I mean, let's just face it, the person driving the $250,000 Ferrari pulls up to the gas pump. They're not worried about how much the taxes are. It's like,
Right.
yep, just fill it up, So I think that, as a legislator, you have to start actually looking at the effect of, of your vote. When you create a bill, you should look at the overall ripple effect that it's going to have on the community, and particularly those who need the help the most. Yeah.
So in terms of, what do you think you can do in Sacramento to help with these kinds of tax issues?
Well, I think what we should start doing is, looking at the budget, seeing what we can cut, where we can save money. There's a lot of, things that are in the budget that are unnecessary, and, and stop restricting businesses. There's so many regulations on businesses that when businesses look to open up new offices and new branches or build new, franchises, they tend to not look in California. I mean, when other states can actually poach your business, and one of their taglines is, lower taxes, lower, fewer regulations, and their businesses are going there, you should examine that. That's a problem. And also when you take the businesses, you're also taking, some of them take their employees with them. Well, one of the things is the new water bill. I mean, when the government starts interfering and telling you how many times you can take a shower, I think that's encroaching on people's personal freedoms, and that's over-regulating. You don't need to, tell a citizen how many times they can take a shower.
How do you think that these regulations and taxes are affecting companies in Ventura County?
Well, for example, Amgen, who started here and is based here, actually decided to expand in Rhode Island, and right now they spent like $1.5 billion so far expanding, building a new facility there. So they took jobs plus $1.5 billion out of California. I mean, it would have made more sense for them to expand here, but they went way across the country on the other coast to build a new facility because of our regulations and our taxes.